Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special Travel Itch Radio. Yes, we used our intro for Sports Talk with the guys, but we did change it up just a little bit only because we have a special event. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a chance where we get to pull back the curtain and we actually get a chance to speak to the one who is the man himself. And he is the emeritus of travel, the emeritus of sports. I mean, I don't know what he isn't the emeritus of, but we'll get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, you know who I am. I want to bring on Dan Schlossberg. Good afternoon, young man. How are you?
I'm doing great, Roger. Always great to talk with you.
It is a pleasure. It has been a pleasure to be able to work with you for so many years, and the privilege of being on Travel Itch Radio with you has been awesome. But folks, due to the fact that we're going to have a holiday week coming up, July 4th, it's a big deal, Independence Day, we decided to do something a little bit different for Travel Itch Radio. That's code for Dan said, let's do the interview. But it is still something different, and I wanted to go ahead and go with it. So we're going to be talking to Dan about his latest masterpiece, and we're going to get to that in a moment. I think Dan has one. You may see it all over the place. I have one, and I've been talking about it, and I'm working my way through it. Dan, this is your audience. Why are we here on this glorious day?
We're here because this is the 50th anniversary year of Hank Aaron's breaking Babe Ruth's record. And to celebrate, we had a total solar eclipse on April 8th, 2024. Exactly 50 years after he broke Babe Ruth's record, the biggest record in sports.
Dan, I was 5 years. No, I was 4, about to turn 5 at that time, so I don't recall it. But my father does, and my father did share that memory with me about that day, how he was able to take it in. He was a big Yankee fan. I know I'm swearing right now, Dan, and I apologize, but he understood what was going on right here. And being that we are minorities ourselves, my father is from another country. I was born here. I understand. I have a different aspect, maybe I should say, but I'm not going to lecture or talk to anyone. I'm saying that we had a different view of it, maybe from Hank Aaron himself, because this was a Hollywood Records of Hollywood Records that was broken that day, right, Dan?
Oh, very much so. This was the biggest record in professional sports. And as he approached that record, because he was a black man going after a white man's record, he got tons of hate mail. And that was a very big deal in 1973.
He had tons of hate mail that I understand, Dan, was very explicit, very clear. They knew details about him, and they would write these letters saying, we're going to end you if you end the record, right? It was bad.
He even told Dusty Baker and Ralph Garr, young black outfielders with the Braves, not to sit next to him on the bench in case somebody took a shot at him during the game.
Wow. Wow, Dan. I did not know that. Wow. Okay. Wow. This is absolutely awesome. I'm amazed by it. I did not know that. Home Run King, the remarkable record of Hank Aaron, Dan Schlossberg, the forward by Dusty Baker, and the preface by Kevin Barnes. We're going to get to that in a moment. With, I know, 50th anniversary, but with so many Hank Aaron books already published, what makes this one different, Dan?
It's different than any baseball biography or autobiography because it was not written in chronological order. In fact, I didn't write the chapters in sequence. I treated each chapter like a separate magazine article because I'm a magazine writer primarily anyway. So it's not written in sequence. I start out with April 8th, 1974, and what happened leading up to that day, what happened on that day, what happened immediately after that day. But the other chapters are pieces of Hank Aaron's life that are significant, not necessarily in chronological order. And Hank Aaron went through all kinds of segregation, bigotry. He grew up in Mobile, Alabama, and once had to hide under the bed because the KKK was marching down his street, and his mother was afraid they were going to damage the house and the people in it. So that's what he grew up against, you know. And then when he left his house to join the Indianapolis Clowns of the Negro Leagues, he had $2, a cardboard suitcase, his sister's hand-me-down clothes, and a ham sandwich. And that was all he had.
Wow. Wow. $2 back then it still was not much, Dan. Wow. That's that's incredible. I understand.
Well, Roger, when you're talking money, you got to realize Hank Aaron and Willie Mays would have been teammates on the New York Giants, except the Boston Braves offered Hank Aaron $50 more. $50 is all that separated Hank Aaron and Willie Mays from being teammates.
Wow. That's crazy. That was not a lot then. That wasn't a lot today. That's unbelievable. That, Dan, I did not know. Now, just very quickly, I understand, and this is a bit of a tangent. This guy, Hank Aaron, was playing in anonymity, and he was hitting, and you'll know better than I, he was hitting 30 to 40 to 50 home runs a year almost from the get-go, correct?
Yes.
Folks, we're talking about 715 home runs. How many years did Hank Aaron play? What was his career, Dan?
Well, he played 12 years in Milwaukee and 9 in Atlanta, and then he played 2 more years in Milwaukee. But playing in Milwaukee was not great for a home run hitter. It was dank, it was wet, it was windy, the ballpark wasn't favorable. When he came down to Atlanta, he had the altitude. Altitude was very favorable for home run hitters. The ball really traveled, and he changed his swing and became a pull hitter. And he said, I can do this. At the time that the Braves moved to Atlanta in 1966, the city of Atlanta was the highest altitude in baseball. Denver and Arizona joined later on. Now
Really?
Atlanta is third. But at the time Aaron was there, it was number 1, and that really helped him.
Wow. Dan, very quickly, based on the number of the years that you gave me, I say he had, I think it was 21 or 23 years, whatever. But for 715 home runs, ladies and gentlemen, just 715, that's 31 home runs a year. That's unreal. And of course, he finished with quite a bit more, and we'll get to that in a bit. But why was Hank Aaron so overlooked during his careers, knowing that he started hitting 40, 50 home runs almost from the get-go?
Well, he never made it to 50. The most he ever had was 47.
Thank you.
But he was Mr. Consistency. He played in small markets in Milwaukee and also in Atlanta. Atlanta didn't become a major market until Ted Turner came along with the Superstation when he bought the Braves in 1976. So Aaron was gone. His entire career was played in a small market, unlike Willie, Mickey, and the Duke, who all played in New York. That was a big deal.
Yes. Now, I understand that, and I missed this, and I should know this in history. When he broke the record, 715, we've all seen the video of it, and then I believe he ended with 755. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, which again, that was each home run after April 8th was a record. When he ended up with 755, I don't know how many years it was in between from him officially retiring to Hall of Fame ballot. What happened there for the Hall of Fame ballot?
He was a first ballot selection, but
Wow.
he was not selected unanimously, which he should have been. 9 voters completely left him off their 10-man ballots. He could have been listed number 10. 9 voters left him off completely. His name was not on the ballots at all. That's disgraceful.
Why, man?
Well, a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
The major reason is racism back in 1982. The second reason is these guys didn't do their homework. I mean, Aaron played in small markets. He never blew his own horn. Very modest, introverted, humble guy. So it could have been any of those things. And other writers just don't vote for anybody the first time they become eligible. Just a matter of principle. That's idiotic.
I don't understand that. And we could have another conversation on sports on other individuals for just of what you just said right there. But I get it. 755, an incredible number. It was broken by someone not too long after that. But I have to ask you, because I believe you consider Hank Aaron to be the true home run king.
Very definitely. That's what the title is all about, Home Run King. But when we say remarkable record of Hank Aaron, it's not just the home run record. but his record as an advocate for civil rights, because when he came to Atlanta, he met Martin Luther King Sr., Martin Luther King Jr., Ralph David Abernathy, Andrew Young. Jesse Jackson often visited from Chicago.
Wow.
Aaron picked up Jackie Robinson's legacy and ran with it and became a real advocate for civil rights. And that's why it's a remarkable record of Hank Aaron.
You know, Dan, I was young at this time in the 70s and 80s, and I read your book and I hear your stories, and I don't understand why there was so much hatred. He's an athlete. He was picked by a team or teams to play. He was worthy. I don't get it, Dan. I don't understand the hatred and the vitriol because he was on his way to breaking Babe Ruth's record. Dan, that's why we play. That's why we watch.
That's exactly right. Well, you know, way back when in the 30s, Hank Greenberg with the Detroit Tigers was Jewish, and there was a lot of anti-Semitism in the country at that time. Pre-World War II, Nazi fervor was going on all over the place. Hank Greenberg had to put up with the same stuff because they were afraid he would break the single season record. He did hit 58 one year, tying Babe Ruth by 2. And the last week of the season, nobody pitched to him. He got a lot of walks.
Yeah. I remember someone was doing that in the Japanese league, and I think it was an American. He was getting close to O, I believe the gentleman's name is, and they 4 and out every at bat, 4 and out. That was crazy.
That's it.
Yeah.
But Barry Bonds had a lot of walks too.
Yeah. You know, I was caught up in it, Dan. I don't know about you. I didn't know what was being done, but this is not about him. But you remember back then, he was getting one pitch a game, and that one he would see, he would hit it out. It was just absolutely amazing. But
you know, you talk about Barry Bonds, Roger. You got to realize that if you look at his record, the only time he had 50 or more home runs in a season was the year he had 73.
Yes.
So, as Yogi Berra would say, something's not kosher in the state of Denmark.
Yes, I agree. I agree, and that's another thing that we can have on another conversation for another day. If you would decide to slum it with sports talk with the guys, Dan, because you're way above us, because you've seen it, you witnessed it, and everything. But now I find this interesting, and Dan, I need your math. I understand that Hank Aaron became an all-star 25 times, but whoa, wait! I did my math. 31.0, 20. What's up with that? 25 all-star selections, but
in 23 years? He played 23 years. How did he get to be an all-star 25 times? And he was not an all-star his first or last year either. So he was an all-star 21 years in a row. But here's the answer. For 4 years, the majors played 2 all-star games a year to raise money for the Players' Pension Fund. He was an all-star both games, all 4 of those years. That's how he did it.
Wow. I knew about the extra game. I didn't know it was 4 years. That's good. That's one heck of a trivia question. I like that one. So, with the numbers that he did, Dan, what's the deal? Only 1 MVP award. Please don't tell me it was the idiocy and ignorance of the sports writers.
Well, I think it was, because if you look at the record, he was never even runner-up in any other year. So he won that 1 award, never finished second any other year. I told you about the Hall of Fame with the 9 writers leaving him off. In the 1957 World Series, he led both teams in all 3 Triple Crown categories, but was not the World Series MVP. I can go on. He got more snubs than anybody I can think of. Oh, yeah, there were 8 All-Star games that started with Hank Aaron on the bench.
Wow, that's absolutely alien to me. Now, Dan, on a side note, you have how many All-Star games? You have a bit of a record yourself, young man.
Many. And I'll be going to the 2024 game. I just found out today, actually.
Wow, of all things. How many years in a row now do you have?
Oh, many. I've been to every All-Star game since 1972 with 1 miss. 1 miss.
1. Wow. That was in 81, was it?
No. That was in 2009, I believe, when it was at Yankee Stadium right in my backyard. Go and ask. It's got something to do with MLB, but I don't know what.
Okay, fair enough. I was gonna say, wow, my team did you wrong. I'm so sorry, Dan. I didn't mean to say that.
First
Wow.
year at Yankee Stadium. That was the first year of the new Yankee Stadium.
Yes. Oh, and by the way, on a side note, on the very last day of the very last game in 2008, I actually did guess right that it would be Molina to hit the home run. Tiny bit of trivia. No one knows. I know. I was like, man, who would? It'd be a freaking angel that would do. But anyway, we're way off base on this home run king. I do apologize. Now,
When you say Molina, you got to specify which one. There were three of them.
oh, that's
There was,
right. It.
there was Benji. I think you're talking about Benji. There's also
Uh,
Yadier Molina was the most famous one.
I think it was Jose.
Jose. Okay.
Yeah, it was
Luis
Jose. It
Ten.
wasn't Benji.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was him. Now, in the hit returning, and I'm sorry to Hank Aaron, how did he do against the best pitchers, such as, I don't know, I remember some guy named Steve Carlton. I believe he played against Sandy Koufax. Tell me, what did he do against those monster pitchers?
Well, he batted 362 against Sandy Koufax. He batted 342 against Steve Carlton. Tom Seaver struck him out 7 times in his rookie year. However, Aaron learned from his mistakes and really understood Tom Seaver and never struck out more than once in any other year of Seaver's career.
Wow.
Oh,
Did
one more
he?
thing. One
Yeah.
more thing. He had 17 home runs against Don Drysdale alone.
Big Don. What was he? 6?
6'6", and he was a headhunter. He threw at your head like Bob Gibson did.
Yes, and I know I'm exaggerating it, but I understand that one of the things, in addition to the headhunter, and he threw hard, and he was actually a good pitcher. I understand it had to do because of his length. He was almost pitching from third base, right?
Yes, he
Because
has
of
side
yeah,
armor. That's right. That's right.
yeah. I've
And by the
seen
way,
that imagery.
Hank Aaron was never thrown out of a game. Never in his
Wow,
23-year career.
I did not
You would
know that.
think that would apply to Cal Ripken, but actually Cal Ripken was thrown out 3 times.
Wow. Yeah. Aaron Judge finally got thrown out, which was undeserved, but hey, it is what
Yes,
it is.
that's true.
Now, what are some of the unusual records that Aaron holds? Because I believe Tommy John with the Yankees has the most records or the most errors on one play. It was 3, one continuous play. That's an odd record. But what other unusual records does Aaron hold?
Well, Aaron holds the record for home runs by brothers. He had 755. His brother Tommy had 13. So they hit more home runs combined than the Alus, the DiMaggios, the Boyers, the 5 Delahanties. The 2 Aarons had more home runs than any of those guys. So that
Wow.
was pretty impressive. But even better, he and Eddie Matthews hit the most home runs during the time they were teammates of any tandem. They had 863 home runs as teammates, just ahead of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig.
I mean, that's not a murderer's row. That's a murderer's duo. That's unreal, Dan. How
And
many years did they play
pardon me,
together?
wait a minute, there's more. There's more. Aaron and Matthews hit home runs in the same game 75 times.
Wow.
How would you like to pitch to that lineup anchored by Aaron and Matthews?
No, I'll stick to the batting practice when I had the privilege. I don't need to be embarrassed in public any more so than that. Wow, that is absolutely crazy. Now, this is really arcane. Was he on the disabled list a lot, or was he a show up every day guy? And based on 755 home runs in 23 years, I think he showed up every day.
He showed up every day. He had minor injuries, but the only serious injury he had came during his rookie year in 1954 when he broke his leg sliding in September.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think he had a hangnail or some stupid thing like that. Wow. Did they even have that stuff back then?
Yeah, I don't know. But that probably cost him the Rookie of the Year award.
In
Which went
September.
He was on pace for the Rookie of the Year award. Wally Moon wound up winning the award.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right.
But the moon set a long time ago.
Very good. That was very well done. All right. I appreciate that. I think I may have at least another question. um,
Okay.
that I may have missed. But as far as this book, Dan, how long did it take you to write this book?
6 months.
Wow. Why don't you tell me about it? Did you know Braves history quite well? You know quite a few people. Were you there by chance, or were you watching it on television this great day, April 8th? Because it was on a Tuesday, right?
Monday.
It was on a Monday. Okay, thank you.
Was it
Were you
every?
watching this game?
Oh yeah, I was watching it. I was there the last week of this 1973 season. There was a game rained out that was never made up. Had that game not been rained out,
Oh,
he could have tied or broken the record then, which is why I was in Atlanta. I did get to meet, I met the governor of Georgia, Jimmy Carter, who befriended Hank Aaron and later went on a ski trip. The Aarons and the Carters went to Europe on a ski trip after Hank retired, and neither one of them could ski. They were falling down all over the place and laughing at each other.
that's not something that I would have expected. That's crazy. In addition to that, are there any unusual things? And that's what I was getting to a moment ago when I said that you
Oh, yeah,
know the history very well.
of
What
course
did you
there.
learn in researching the book?
Well, since I mentioned Jimmy Carter, he was the first of 4 Democratic presidents who credited their election victory to Hank Aaron's campaigning for them. So it was Carter, and then it was Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and even Joe Biden.
Wow, that I that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Now, Hank told me that Jackie Robinson was a Richard Nixon Republican, and he never figured that out. And I don't think Hank ever forgave him for supporting Nixon and the Republicans.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear that? Hank told him. I assume that you had a few conversations with him.
Many, including on the phone. One time he was on vacation in Europe and he called me because he knew I wanted quotes. I was doing a Chipper Jones article for USA Today Sports Weekly.
Yes.
I wanted some quotes from Hank Aaron. He got word and he called me from Europe.
Wow. And I do remember when you were writing those articles in USA Today Sports Weekly. I used to read them. I enjoy them to this day. And you write for a few others, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So now help me out on the insert that we have behind. What makes your book's color photo insert section special?
A lot of the pictures there are pictures never published before because they're from my personal collection. For example, there's a picture of me interviewing Hank Aaron in Jarry Park in Montreal, where the Expos used to play. When I was a 17-year-old college student at Syracuse, I drove to Montreal to see Hank Aaron and the Braves, and some of those pictures are in the book. There's a picture I took of Hank Aaron with Eddie Matthews. I mentioned the home run record for brothers. That was taken just a month before Aaron broke the record. There's a picture of me with Dusty Baker as a rookie outfielder with the Braves.
Yes.
Now, we all know that Dusty Baker was 74 last year when he retired as a manager of the Astros. So this goes back more than half a century. Picture of me with Dusty Baker. There's a picture of me with Jimmy Carter and Hank Aaron in the same picture, and others. So I recommend this book because you see things you won't see anywhere else. There you go.
The picture, I don't know how it's going to show up, but I suppose it would be here. That's the one where he's with Jimmy Carter, and
Right.
you're right behind Hank.
I'm the guy right behind Hank. I was 25 when that picture was taken.
Dan, that's a power position right there. Yes. Oh, the imagery here is absolutely phenomenal. And these are your images as well. Wow.
Oh, and those 2 certificates, by the way, I was there when he hit 714. I was there when he hit 715. Those are printed by the Braves, who had hoped to give them to their fans. But there was a big controversy in 74 because the Braves opened on the road. The commissioner of baseball, Bowie Kuhn, ordered them to play Aaron in the first game, and they did, and he hit a home run in the first inning. So that made the 714 certificate a phantom, and the Braves had to burn 50,000 of them.
Wow. I get that. So enlighten me. He ordered him to play. They were on the road, so the Braves were of the mind. It's like, it's gonna happen. He's gonna do it at home. That was
exactly what they wanted to do. Eddie Matthews was then the manager. He wanted not to play Aaron at all in Cincinnati. But when word got out that that was his plan, the commissioner intervened and threatened Matthews with a fine and suspension. And so Matthews put him in the lineup.
He threatened the manager. Oh my goodness! Wow, that is crazy. Um, wow,
And
different
by the
times,
way,
Dan.
and Bowie Kuhn never came to Atlanta for number 715. He was not there. He sent Monty Irvin instead.
Wow. Speaking of these events, or specifically that date, which I believe is April 8th, why is that the title of chapter 1 in your book?
It's a very significant date in baseball history, and it was voted the most memorable moment in baseball history by the fans during the centennial year of baseball, way back in '99.
Wow. There's a chapter called Ironies and Oddities.
Oh, I love that. In fact, I taught a course at Bergen Community College called Baseball Ironies and Oddities. Ironies and Oddities. For example, Hank Aaron won each leg of the Triple Crown at least twice, but never simultaneously. He never won a Triple Crown. Willie Mays, by the way, never led his league in runs batted in. Despite his huge RBI total, he never led his league in RBIs. Stan Musial never won a home run crown, despite a huge home run total. But Hank Aaron led in all 3 Triple Crown categories in different years.
Very few people can lay that claim. Wow, that's crazy.
Here's another one. If you take away the 755 home runs from his total of hits, he still has over 3,000 hits.
Wow.
He's also number 1 in total bases, most total bases in baseball history. And get this, he ran 12 miles further around the bases than any player in the history of baseball.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this, Dan, as we near the end. Was Hank Aaron the best player you ever had the privilege of taking in, viewing, seeing on television in real life? Was he?
Without doubt. Better than Willie Mickey and Duke, and you can look it up. His stats topped them all in every category.
And he was a center fielder, not a right fielder.
No. He was a right fielder.
Oh, he was.
Hank Aaron was
Okay.
a right fielder. However, when the team needed him, as it did during the 1957 World Series, he played center field. That was the year, by the way, he batted .393 in the World Series.
Dan, did he ever have a black mark? And I don't mean that meaning. And was there anything that he did wrong? Did he commit 2 errors in a game? Is there anything he did bad at one time?
The only thing he did wrong was his batting stance was unusual. He hit off his front foot,
Yes.
which any batting instructor will tell you is a no-no. But his results were so good, they said, don't tamper with that kid's swing, and I left it alone.
Incredible. Dan, I'm sure there's other items that I'd missed, but
I'll tell you another one.
please.
When he had his 30-30 year, 30 steals and 30 home runs in a season, he was only the 3rd guy in baseball history to do that.
Wow.
There have been quite a few since, but number 3, pretty good.
I believe it's impressive that you've had the privilege of reading up to speaking to the man who broke the record, the one that we're talking about. But Dusty Baker did the forward in this. And I remember Dusty Baker, the fans at Dodger Stadium would throw bubble gum at him because he was always blowing bubbles. It was cool. He also had a toothpick in his mouth most of the time.
Yes.
But Dodger fans remember him as I remember being in the left field pavilions and fans just throwing packs of bubblegum. I understand that Dusty Baker said that they threw so much that it was like 10 or 20 years after he had finished baseball, he finally ran out of bubblegum. Wow. But he had the privilege of writing you had the privilege of having him write. Were you surprised by what he wrote?
I was very flattered by what he wrote, humbled by what he wrote, honored by what he wrote. We've had a friendship that goes back many years. I wrote the very first magazine article ever written about Dusty when he came up, and he never forgot it. The headline was, Dusty Baker, the next Hank Aaron? And we laugh about it today because we both know there was no next Hank Aaron.
Very good. Very good. There are some people in baseball that say that when you label a kid so young, you actually put too much on them. Apparently, it didn't bother Dusty.
No, no. He took 5 different teams to the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, yes. Now, on that day in April 8th, if I may, I want to home in on that. Where was who was there batting before him and after? Because I believe you've spoken to all of them at one time or another, right? Who was
Yes.
on? Was it Darrell Evans before him, or was it Dusty?
Darrell Evans was before him. He was already on base.
Okay, he was
Dusty,
on base. So
Dusty was
Dusty
in the
was on
on-deck
deck.
circle. Dusty was in the on-deck circle, and then Davy Johnson behind him.
Davy, that's been forgotten in history. People don't pay attention to that. Davy Johnson. Wow. Dan,
Because
that was a darn good batting lineup as it is.
oh yeah, the year before, Darrell Evans, Davy Johnson, and Hank Aaron became the first trio of teammates to enjoy simultaneous 40 home run seasons.
Wow. In 74, was Hank Aaron hitting fourth, third, or fifth?
Fourth.
Still, wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Dan, what were your thoughts going back? I know it's in here, and everyone needs to take a look at it. They need to read it. But you remember watching this on television. What was your feeling, Dan? Because it wasn't on the first pitch, right?
No, it
No.
was a 2-1 pitch.
Yes. Take us back, Dan, to that moment. And if you would share that moment with us right now.
Well, it was interesting because the pitcher, Al Downing of the Dodgers, was a left-hander, pitched against Aaron many times. Aaron hit him pretty well. His uniform number was 44. Aaron's uniform number was 44. Aaron hit 44 home runs 4 times in his career. There's a lot of numerology there.
April 8th,
Oh, yeah, April.
4 and 4.
Fourth month of the season. Number 8 is divisible by 4. The year ended in 1974. There's a lot of stuff going on there.
And he was breaking 7-1-4. Wow.
That's right.
Jeez, that's absolutely amazing.
And by the way, Ruth batted 4th also for the Yankees.
By the way, yes. Well, as a matter of fact, that's how they started the numbers for the Yankees, right? Number 1 was 1.
Right. At that time, Ruth was batting 3rd and Lou Gehrig was 4th.
Yeah. But, wow, absolutely incredible. Now, his Hall of Fame plaque reads Henry L. Hank Aaron, but he was actually hammering Hank, right?
Hank Greenberg was called. He
Oh,
was hammering Hank too.
understood. Milwaukee National League, Atlanta National League, Milwaukee American League, 1954 to 1976. He hit 755 home runs in 23-year career to become Major's all-time home run king. Had 20 or more for consecutive 20 years. Ladies and gentlemen, 20 home runs for 20 consecutive years. Wow. Unbelievable. At least 30 in 15 seasons and 40 or better 8 times. Also set records for games played, 3298, at bats, 12,364, long hits. What are long hits? Is this doubles, triples, and homers?
Yes.
1,477. Total bases, 6,856. Runs batted in. I'm sorry?
He's number 1 total bases and extra base hits and RBIs and clean home runs.
Gee, Dan, what's a clean home run?
Ain't no steroids there.
Batted at slugging percentage 4 times. Each won Most Valuable Player Award in National League in 1957. Unbelievable.
And he should have won 3 or 4 more.
Wow. On the back cover, Bruce Marcuson is on it. Chip Carey. Gee, I wonder who that is. Art Shamsky. Yeah, I think I know who that is as well. And Jeff Idelson. Oh, and John Thorne, the official historian of Major League Baseball, are listed on the back cover of this book. Wow, absolutely impressive. Dan, I know there's quite a bit more that I've missed, and there's more to the story, but anything else you want to share on hammering? Well, I'm sorry, on Hank Aaron.
He was just a gentleman, a real class act, really nice guy. That's about all I have to say about him. He led by example. Andrew Young I mean, Hank Aaron once asked Andrew Young what he could do to advance the cause of civil rights. Andrew Young said, just keep being the best player in baseball.
Wow. Yeah. Did he tell you what he felt running those bases?
It was pretty obvious to the world because when he got there and the TV cameras came on, he said, I just thank God it's all over with. His kids weren't there because their lives were threatened. They were with their natural mother in Jacksonville watching on TV.
Wow. Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I know it's only a sport, Dan, but it means a great deal. And the life that he lived, the way he lived it, it is it is something that we should all strive for. And as you said, he was a wonderful person. He was a wonderful human being. Wow. It's absolutely awesome. Home Run King, The Remarkable Record of Hank Aaron by Dan Schlossberg, forward by Dusty Baker, and preface by Kevin Barnes. Tell us where we can find this book, Dan.
Amazon.com. If you want to save a few bucks, you'll have it tomorrow.
And we're Amazon, right? Yes.
Amazon.com.
All right. Dan, anyone where are you going to be at signing for this book?
My next signing is in Cooperstown, home of the Baseball Hall of Fame, on Main Street on July 20th. That's a Saturday from 11 to 1. I'll be in front of Willis Money Books near the Theater Marquee.
Now, in addition to being on Travelers Radio, where you always let everyone know where you're going to be, is there any place else they could go? Do you have a website, Dan, that we could, where they could visit with you?
www.danschlossberg.net.
I wonder if it's this one. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. DanSchlossberg.net. And you can find him. You can find Dan. You can speak with him, communicate with him. Maybe we'll cajole him to come back every now and then and do a sports program just like this. It might work out. Maybe we'll have to pre-record some programs, but I don't want to get him to have to commit. This is a big deal. 50th anniversary. This is one of the greatest moments in baseball history. And how interesting that it would also be in April. April 15th is also another big day in baseball history. And it is incredible what this man had to deal with. And he persevered. Is it called Quiet Dignity, Dan?
Yes, very much so. In fact, Jackie Robinson and Hank Aaron met when Hank was a teenager. The Brooklyn Dodgers came through Mobile on a barnstorming tour at the end of spring training. Hank went to hear Jackie talk, befriended him, later made friends with the other early Black Dodgers like Roy Campanella, Don Newcomb, Dan Bankhead. And Hank said those card games they had were like college classes for anyone else. Taught him a lot about life.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know of that connection right there. So directly from Jackie Robinson to Hank Aaron. I wonder who would be next in line, and maybe that's another book for another day, Dan.
It is.
Because every great player on every team is connected to the next great player. There's someone there, there's a line. And it's interesting. It's interesting to see that. I'd like to have a conversation with you about that and other stuff in the future. Home Run King. Dan, anything else you want to share with us?
Hank's top salary was $240,000. Today, the minimum salary is $740,000.
Wow. Unbelievable. And Dan, stupid question, because I don't believe it's answerable, but I'm going to ask you. Could he play in today's leagues?
Yes, because there was a contact hitter with power. He averaged only 63 strikeouts a season, which is phenomenal for a home run hitter. And he could run, he could throw, a 5-tool player, and his attitude was fabulous.
He was a 5-tool before there was 5 tools, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I believe the players of yesteryear, they were just physically stronger and stronger up here as well.
Right. He was not a big guy. He was only 6 feet and 180 pounds, probably half of Aaron Judge's size.
6 feet, Dan?
6 feet tall, 180.
Wow. Funny. I'm smaller but big. Dan, what a wonderful insight into Hank Aaron, and I look forward to being able to speak to you again in the future. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I thank you for taking the time to spend it with us. Ladies and gentlemen, he does travel, but for the longest time, and still does, sports. He is probably the Braves fan. I'm not going to say Atlanta because that might be an insult to him because he's been following the Braves forever. I'm not going to ask him why the Braves. That will be for another story. But it starts right here. Home Run King, the remarkable record of Hank Aaron. Amazon, go on over to danschlossberg.net. You can communicate directly with Dan. He will respond to you. And this is, it's a phenomenal read. I'm taking my time reading this book because it is a privilege for me. I am already, Dan, I'm barely in heading south, chapter 6. And I appreciate it. That's why I haven't had a chance to finish it. I am savoring this. This is a wonderful read, Dan. I had no idea of what was this man behind him, in front of him, and everything. It's enlightening in ways that I'll probably never understand the life that he lived, right? Unbelievable. And I
Roger,
thank you.
Happy July 4th.
Yes. Independence Day. Yes. Thank you. And I hope you enjoy your day. I'm going to enjoy my day as well. Everyone on Travel Itch Radio, thank you for joining us. Hopefully we didn't throw you with the intro. We just thought we would do a sports intro. Well, when I say we, that's me. Dan's like, what is this? It says Sports Talk with the Guys. What are you doing to me, Raj? I'm like, ownership hath his privileges. Just kidding, Dan. So we're good. All right, folks. That's it. Check it out. Buy the book. Get it on Amazon. You can get the digital, but you can get the paper, or that was stupid of me. The hard. This is a hardback, right?
Yes.
Yeah, hardback version. Get that one. It has quite a bit more value, and the pictures are absolutely awesome. And this is one of the last pictures in the book. Wonderful image, and I'm sorry for the glare, folks. So I don't want to hold it up directly to the screen because then they can get pictures of it. We don't want to do that. Check it out. Home Run King. It's a wonderful gift. Father's Day passed. Independence Day. It's coming up. All-Star Game gift. This is wonderful. All right. This is great, Dan. I thank you for taking us on this journey. It's absolutely awesome. I thank you for spending time with us on this day, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day on July 4th.
Thank you. You too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for indulging us on this holiday Thursday. It's a wonderful time. As always, we'll see you guys on the other side. Peace always.